What the fuck is going on? Make that the intro.
Okay, well, welcome, Peter, to the 2B2T New Friends podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Well, yes, thank you very much for having me, Mr. Staple. My name is Peter Rod, or PeterTDT, depending on where you've seen me most. I started playing 2B2T in October of 2022, but the first time I logged in was 5 months before that. I escaped spawn and everything, and then I died, and then I didn't join till that time in October. Then when I joined in October, I set up a small base and then stayed there for about a month. And then I joined Collective and Downfear at the same time. And of course, I progressed through Collective. I got ranked up and everything. I stayed there for a good amount of time before I started building up the Communist Party with Alfredo.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about the Communist Party as a 2B group and how you got into it?
Yes, of course. So when I first joined 2B2T, I knew about the Soviets, Communist Party of 2B2T, from 2017. So I made it one of my goals, to eventually try and revive that group and bring it back. So what happened was I was playing 2B2T one day, and obviously before that I was desperately trying to find people to try and help me bring it back. I didn't know there were any other communist people on 2B2T until I met Alfredo in chat. So when I met him, he invited me to the Communist Party of 2B2T, which he created with another person named Mr. Eve. And then eventually he decided that Mr. Eve wasn't really doing a good job with leadership, and Mr. Eve ended up nuking the server. And then Shamix, Shamix, he created a new Discord server, and then I became Pangaburo, and then he became Pangaburo, and so it was the three of us that we started building up the Communist Party, what we have now. Mainly me, I implemented my model of how the Communist Party should run and everything, and then we start progressing from there. So the Communist Party, what we have now, is meant to be the revival of the Soviets, and we're trying to desperately to bring them back. We have Valatov now, and Valatov is set to come back soon, from what we've heard. And then once he comes back, we're going to start bringing back more people, and then we're going to try and bring back the Soviets to their original strength and try to make them stronger and more governmental than they were before. And the Communist Party is a leftist unity faction. So basically, we take all the leftists from 2B2T and we unite them into a single group in order to advance leftist politics on 2B2T and advance leftist struggle and knowledge, and try and spread the word about leftist politics to the player base.
Okay. With that said, soon I'd like to go into more of how you've changed the group during your sort of leadership of the revival. But could you tell us a little bit of what you thought was so enticing about the original group before you had to revive it?
Well, I didn't know too much about the original group besides they're an anti-fascist group. So obviously, many people know, and I've said it many times, that I'm a communist in real life. So I would be attracted to any socialist or Marxist or communist themed factions in 2B2T. So I feel like that was one of the only outright socialist or leftist groups in 2B2T. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it back and try and raise it up to something better, or something as much as it was before. Because leftist groups right now in 2B2T were pretty dead besides the workers' union. So we really need more leftist groups. So I feel like ever since I revived the Communist Party, it's been more smaller leftist groups popping up. There's been more leftists speaking out, debating, and everything. So it's definitely helped a lot.
Okay. With you reviving a group that, like you said, you didn't know too much about, besides it being based off of leftist politics, what do you think you added to the group during your revival that made it, like, better as a whole to be able to run on the server?
Right. So, from what I know about the Communist Party, I believe the rankings that they had was, I think they're like the structure was kind of like the VEA, if that makes sense. Like each rank would be people who are like progressively trusted within their group, and then they're being mostly like a base group, So they just like mainly do bases and like have events and stuff. But like our group, I want to try to like make it more like governmental. So for example, we have this system. I never seen like a system like this implemented on the PeterTDT before. So we have a system of committees, which is kind of similar to a real socialist government or a real communist party, where each committee would be tasked with a specific range of operations. So we have a committee for construction, we have a committee for war, which would be like PvP and briefing, we have a committee for computer science, and we have all these different committees that are needed for the advance of our activities and all our operations. So each committee would have a commissar, and the commissar would be appointed by the political bureau, which I'm in. So I appointed commissars to each committee, and then we run it like that. That's how we conduct our operations. So there'll be one person for each committee that manages all the operations in that category. So that's one thing that's like one example of how we change things up a bit in PeterTDT groups, and and the differentiation from the Soviets, because they didn't really have anything that is like really structured. It's more of its strengths, but we actually have like more of a structure. And I'm also like we've also been thinking about adding more structure to it, and more democratic means. So I'm thinking about like electing commissars, or perhaps creating like a legislative body within the party, which would consist of base leaders and everything. But that's still in speculation, and so I'm still like contemplating that and everything.
Okay. With how it's structured right now, you put an emphasis on being able to make changes easily and have people with dedicated jobs. What things has the Communist Party done under your leadership that you would think is sort of notable, not just for your group, but for the server as a whole? Are there any achievements that you have?
Right. I mean, well, it's gonna sound a little disappointing, but things have been like very, very slow, mostly because of inactivity in leadership and inability to be able to do the things that we want to do. But specifically now, we're about to start something that like we've been wanting to do for quite a while, which is something called the 5-month plans, which is a huge operation where all the committees work together in order to get the Communist Party on par with other factions, which would enable us to do more of the goals that we have and the things that we want to do, like map art, spawn logos, and large structures, run spawn, and stuff like that. So we're about to start doing that. What we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of mid-tier bases, which would be like bases in between like a main base and recruit bases. And there will be like at least like a million out there. There'll be farther and everything. And we're gonna fill them up with industry, and each base would have a quota, like a weekly quota. And then after they fulfill that quota, we'll collect what their produce was, and we'll bring it to a main location. And then that will help us create like a basis sort of to start the 5-month plans. And then after that, we'll be starting a lot more bigger operations and start changing the face of PvP.
Okay. I don't have much of a knowledge of real world communism and many political ideologies that are like closely associated with it, but I do know a little bit about the real world. I don't know if it was called the 5-month plan, but it was the something month plan.
5 year.
Yeah,
That
but
was based off of.
could you explain a little bit of how you're taking inspiration from a lot of real world events, such as the 5-year plan, and applying those to 2B?
Right. So as we know in socialism, everything's publicly controlled, publicly owned, and whatever's done is done based off of need. As Marx said, the outline a quote that he said, the outline common society from each according to the ability to each according to the need. I tried implementing that kind of quote to Communist Party to try and make it so that people only receive what is needed from them and not anything extra. So anyone that can do stuff should do stuff, and then once they do that, receive what is needed. And the thing about socialism, we're trying to. I mean, our group is a little different from other groups because we're a democratic group, and I'm trying to make it more like directly democratic. So, like anyone that has the proposal is always heard. We always take into consideration. I always try to do what benefits the party. Like you can ask some of our members. Like the last meeting we had, which was actually surprisingly successful on Friday. We had a lot of proposals, and now we're working on implementing all those proposals into the Communist Party. So, and just the fact that anyone can be heard, and you don't have to be afraid about speaking out. And in a lot of groups, you can you would make a criticism, and then leaders constantly watching, and the next thing you know, you get kicked out of the group. Our group isn't like that. I try not to make our group like that. And that's that'll be something like a communist or socialist society.
Okay, I think that was very well said. On to a different topic. I'd like to know a little bit more about the public relations that the Communist Party has with some other groups. Could you give us a rundown of any groups that you have a close association with, or any groups that you are enemies with?
Right. So when we started, we wanted to make as much alliances as possible. So we allied with a bunch of groups who tried to be openly friendly, because we know we can't afford to make any conflict with any group right now, and it wouldn't really be necessary to us. So we made friends with a bunch of groups who started out being close allies with Collective, and we eventually moved towards being allies with the VEA and a bunch of other groups that were mutual with us. I mean, the only enemies we really have are the people who are and right now it's the people who are targeting us specifically. So there aren't too many groups that are like that, but there are only one group that we're concerned about in terms of security and integrity of our party and our faction is the Teutonic Order, which started at first with I believe Beep Beep, that guy who was in the Teutonic Order. He griefed one of our Projdegrads, which is a recruit base. It's the lowest level base we have, so they're linked often. I mean, right now we have more security now, but I'll get into that later. But so they're linked often. They're pretty close to spawn and everything. So they obtained the codes somehow from someone else that linked it, and he griefed it. So I questioned him everything. It's just to find out and get it. So that's the first time they did some kind of attack to us, and then after that, they started targeting us specifically because after that we had a joint base with the Travelers and the VEA, and they ended up griefing that base only because we were there. And then it wasn't actually me who decided to retaliate. There was other partisans within our Communist Party, because we're a democratic group, so about 5 other people said they want to do something about it. They've been stepping on us, and that we should try and do something back to them. So what we did, we established a team of people to try and obtain codes to a Teutonic Order base. We were successful. We got codes and everything. So we planned an attack on July 4th. But the main problem was me and Artex were both on vacation, so we couldn't play the game. So no, people in the party wanted it specifically to be on July 4th. So we went through with it. They planned it out and everything. Me and Arctic supervised it, and then we sent a team of people to brief the base, and only Troppy showed up, and then he ended up doing it, and then he got killed and everything. It was a huge shit show. It didn't go well, and then I ended up it's like releasing releasing the codes to all the other groups, so that, like as a last resort kind of. And then I don't know what happened to the base now. I don't know if it's still up. I never heard of it getting briefed. I know Dima. I'm pretty sure Dima showed up. But I don't know what happened.
Okay, I just got kicked, but we can continue the interview.
What happened?
I just got kicked from the server, but
if
you want to keep talking, you can.
Oh, okay, of course. Yeah, actually, believe like right after that happened, that's when we started getting more members. I feel like that backfired us a lot, because I feel like that actually made them like very recognizable, because we literally say like Tectonic Order codes like on almost every server, and then drew attention to them quite a lot. So I think that's like one of the reasons why they have like so many members now, and they're a pretty big threat. But we're trying to like avoid like any conflict with them as much as possible, because we don't really care to do it anymore. We don't really have the resources. We don't really see a point. So right now we've been trying to reach out to them and achieve a diplomatic relations. We had a diplomatic meeting and everything. They refused our offers, and now right now we're kind of neutral. I still accept people from the Tectonic Order into the Communist Party, but like I'm spectacle about them. I keep an eye on them and everything. I make sure that if they're gonna get access to their base, I ask them questions before, or ask them. I'm parched. Hold on, let me drink some water.
Okay, that's fine.
I've been talking for a while.
Yeah. It's definitely a hard job. I want to say to any viewers, if you want to learn more about the Tectonic Order, which is the only sort of enemy that the Communist Party has at the moment, we actually have a podcast episode with the leader of that group too. But
yeah, that's all I'm good. What was I saying about
you were talking about the peace
Tectonic Order members in the Communist Party. So we still accept them, but I would question them and everything, try and make sure that if they get cords, that we make sure that they're not gonna leak or anything or betray us. So right now we're on kind of neutral terms. We haven't had any attacks since. They're still targeting us. They're still releasing propaganda about us and their threats and everything. So we keep an eye on them. I mean, there's another group, the Imperials have showed some hostility towards us, but they haven't. It's more of casual LARP or joking, so we haven't really had a problem with them. But we keep an eye on them, because they're outright a fascist group, and they said it themselves. So keeping watch on them. But right now, we still accept people from Imperials. We still accept people from the Tectonic Order. We just keep an eye on them.
Okay, with you talking about some groups that have outwardly spoken against your group, how do you think the Communist Party being a leftist group on the server influences how regular players view it?
Well, from what I've seen, some people have shown some hostility based off of real world politics and everything. A lot of people are mature, so they don't really look at that. I'm only one of the few people that associates politics within the game. Not that many people associate with that. But there's been a couple people who showed aggression though. But the thing about our leftist group is that obviously we're the only politically themed group right now. From what I've seen, the thing about the right wing, the only enemy movement like the right wing and PeterTDT, so we haven't really seen too much of that. I got disconnected as well, but yeah, we haven't really seen too much of that. Like the right wing is on PeterTDT, and new reactionaries and PeterTDT are pretty dead. Most of them are on 19 now, which we're trying to expand into and trying to get them out of there as well. So we haven't had too many enemies based off of real world politics, because there's people on China and everything. But that's a whole nother can of worms that isn't really too relevant, because they're in China and everything, and they haven't really showed any aggression towards the Communist Party in game or in their operations. So it hasn't been too bad enough.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you're one of the few people on 2B that integrates and associates real world politics into the game.
Right.
I'd like to know for recruiting to the Communist Party, is there a requirement that they have to believe in real world leftism?
No, absolutely not. We don't make a requirement. I mean, there's actually is a requirement associated with politics. The only thing is, though, that you can't be a fascist or anything, or associated with reactionary far right ideology. So if someone says they're a fascist, we kick them out immediately. So that's the only thing. We accept all people, though. You don't have to be leftist. I mean, the main purpose of our group is to educate people. So we have a channel in the party called Marxist Theory and Leftist Media, where members propose leftist media and articles and everything. We post it in the channel, so it's a source of information of leftist politics to the 2B2B community. So we run that and everything. It's it's an educational thing. So we don't restrict people based off besides fascism.
Okay. And then would you say that with trying to bring leftist politics and sort of, like you said, teaching people about the ideology, do you think that's your most important goal on 2B? Or if not, what is the most important goal of the group?
I mean, well, when I first joined, my original goal was all I want to do is building stuff on 2B2T, but it's unlike building Minecraft, but I always found nobody ever saw my build, so I wanted to build on 2B2T. I didn't really start wanting to do leftist stuff until I brought back the Communist Party. So right now, my goal is to try and spread the leftist ideals and do leftist related things on 2B2T in order to spread the word a bit, and defeat fascism more than it already is.
Okay. And then, do you know of any people or groups on 2B that are openly fascist at the moment, the way that you're openly communist?
No, I haven't seen any. There's been I try not to bring too much attention to them, but I won't mention them for purposes of this. I've seen a couple instances. I saw a very inactive group called the Axis, which is openly does seem to be openly fascist. There's also the Gulag, which I forgot to mention. They've collaborated with fascists before, and they've actually targeted our group, which I'll talk about later. And I saw a Reddit post about a resurgency in Nazism and fascism on 2B2T, which we're keeping an eye on currently.
Okay, and then how do you think you're gonna respond if there is that resurgence of those players?
That's a tough one, because I don't really know yet, but I'm guessing we'll probably try and have an emergency meeting to discuss ideas within the group in order to try and undermine them and try and disseminate them and just remove them from the community as much as we can. So we could probably do that from agitation and propaganda, and as well as communicating with other groups to try and blacklist them from the community as well, because we don't want fascism. It's evil. We don't want anywhere in the community. We'll fight to the death to abolish it in 2B2T.
Okay, and then you're saying you'd like to fight to the death to abolish fascism on 2B. Do you feel the same way about most of your movements and points on 2B, the same way in real life?
Yes.
And then, with that said, do you make moves in real life to educate people in other ways and try to make your side of the story?
Well, yes, but no. I'm not in like an organization yet, but there is some people in the Communist Party who are actual like leftist organizations, like the Communist parties, or like or different organizations. But I'm personally not in any organization at the moment. But what I try to do, I try and like talk to people online, or talk to people like in school and everything, trying to bring awareness about leftist politics and debate people as much as I can in order to spread the word and everything. But like, yeah, my main fight is to establish socialism in the world and try to make things better for the majority of the people.
Okay. Well, those were most of the questions that I had ready for you. Is there anything else important that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I guess I'll just mention like two more things and explain two more things, because I mentioned that like I said to the board, like I'll explain it later, so I just want to explain them so it's not speculation or anything, or wondering about like what was said. So first, just saying, like we practice intensified security. So like what we did, we recently implemented VC interviews. So anyone joining the party, we have to first apply, and then after that, I'll ask them a series of questions in VC for them to join the party, and after that, they'll be accepted as a party member. So we established more security about that and everything. We were actually I was actually thinking about making a VC interviews like early on with me on the third, and like asking Fred, and like should we implement VC interviews in the party? He's like, nah, it's fine. And I was like, yeah, I think it'd be good as well, but because our goal at the time was to like not have too many restrictions on people joining, because we wanted as many people as possible. So I think it was actually a smart move to have the interviews at a later time when we were more well known, in order to get as many people as possible within our faction. And the second thing about the Gulag. So everyone knows Tommy and Mr. Gibson. So like obviously we have like a lot of conflict with Mr. Gibson. We banned him because he was trolling, he was being a Nazi in our factions. We banned him and everything. The thing about Kami, Kami is like a notable, like not really, he's not a leftist, but he's like communistic themed. So I thought like he would be a good asset to our group and our struggle. So I know I invited him to the party and everything, and so I gave him some access to like certain things. I gave him membership. I think he applied, and he gained access to the computer committee that we had set up. So what he was doing, he said he will make a hack client for the Communist Party. So what he ended up doing, he ended up making a client that was meant to try and dox me and dox the rest of the party members that used it. So how I found out about that was Mr. Gibson actually like DM'd me. He said sent me screenshots trying to grab in my face and like call me as access to this committee, and that he's creating like a client. But his intention was that like once this got out, then like cause turmoil in the party, which is like complete bullshit. Because that wouldn't cause turmoil at all. So like he made a big mistake by telling me, because I feel like they could have gotten away with it. I'm pretty clumsy, so I would have installed that thing immediately without checking it. But we found out about it early on, and then banned Kami immediately. And we got that settled. So yeah, that was that. If there's any other questions you guys can ask, then that's about it.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Or do you want to go first, Thunder?
Oh, you can go first, Sly.
All right. So, I mean, you don't have to answer this because it might not be good to answer it. But I saw that you got blacklisted on Dawn Fear. How did that happen?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's okay. I'll answer that. So like that was in Dawn Fear as well. Dawn Fear was one of the first groups I joined. When I first joined Dawn Fear, they put me in reserve guards, and that's actually how I started focusing on collective more, and everything. And obviously I met you flying in collective.
Yeah.
We were at so like originally I was gonna try and like concentrate on my attention on Dawn Fear and put collective second, but it ended up being the opposite because I was in reserve guard for about a month. And eventually I got out surprisingly by I was started LARPing about communism and the reserve guard tried and eventually let me out. Once I started doing that, and I got pissed off or something.
Ah,
So I was
damn.
in Downfair for some time after that. I visited a few bases. I didn't really get a chance to build too much stuff because I also started a Commons Party and I was also trying to balance the collective out, and everything. So I was in there for a while and I was active in the VCs and everything, and then I feel like they're starting to wanting to kick me out because they were getting pissed off about me because they kept talking about politics in their chats and everything, and I wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
And then like later on, no, Choppy is one of my friends, and I met him in Downfair, and he got kicked off from Downfair, obviously, but he's a high rank in the Communist Party, and he ended up doing something with the Tonic Order. He did a griefing event, and he asked me, is it okay if I grief a base? I'm like, yeah, sure, you can grief for the Tonic Order. I didn't know what base it was, so I ended up being a Downfair base, which he ended up obtaining cords to somehow. I don't know how he got them, but he griefed the base and everything, and then like I wake up next morning, I know nothing about it. As I didn't even know like Downfair was associated with it. I didn't know it had any relation to with Downfair, and then I woke up and everything. I got messages from Dean Loaded and not Dean Loaded yet, but like I got messages from Dark Amir wondering about the issue. And like I talked to Dark Amir about it, and everything seemed fine. And I talked to Dean Loaded about it. So basically, what they were trying to do is trying to make me take Droppy out because he griefed one of the bases, as if I had the authority to do so. Because the grief had nothing to do with me or the Communist Party. It was at the Tonic Order grief. So we didn't have any control over it, so he was basically trying to get Troppy kicked out of the group, and I kept telling him I don't have the authority to do that. He didn't do anything that would be detrimental to the Communist Party, or he didn't do anything that that affected us in any way. And he just he got in his own, wasn't associated with us. And Dean Loaded, and I guess Dean Loaded wasn't really having it, so it just moved me. And then I don't know, a lot of people don't say I lied to them because they keep thinking that like I knew somehow that it was a Downfair base and that I commanded Troppy to grief or something. I don't know, or some weird story, but yeah, but obviously I didn't know anything about it. Troppy is still in a group, but after that we made some like reforms in the party, so it made it so that anyone over a certain rank has to notify the Polynborough before they're gonna like grief a base or anything that may like affect the Communist Party, because now at that point those people would represent. We made sure that like didn't happen again. No event like that. Because this one was really, I think I just got kicked from Downfair. It wasn't any affected the group.
Yeah.
We have to make sure it doesn't, nothing like that happens again that would actually affect the Communist Party. But yeah, that's how I got kicked and everything. But I don't really care. I wasn't. I mean, at first it was a little frantic. I would admit, because I wasn't Downfair a while. But like a day later, I realized, yeah, whatever, because I wasn't really doing anything in there, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay, and then Thunder, what was your question?
How many people do you think you've successfully converted and educated to communism?
I mean, it was quite a few actually. I mean, I don't expect the number to be like extremely high, but the fact that I even got like at least one person to convert by playing PeterTDT was pretty fascinating to me, because like when it's hard to get people to like change their mind about something big like this. Like, people are very ignorant these days, and they're very unknowledgeable. People don't really ask questions about things these days, so it's not really an easy task to get people to convert. But there has been surprising like about like 4 or 3 people who are converted. I won't say their names for privacy, but I do get messages sometimes, like people who say like, Peter, I feel like I want to change to socialism and become a Marxist and everything. And I direct them to some media outlets and some sources and do further research on that. People, I feel like some people might go and say like we're trying to brainwash people or whatever, and like trying like be pedos or something, but like for politics. We haven't gotten any instances like that yet, but obviously what we're doing is we're trying to just educate people. We're not pushing it down their throats or anything, but like we expose this information to the public. We put it out there and everything, and it's their choice if they want to go more into it, or accept it. And the people who are accepted it, are the ones that eventually become Marxists.
Gotcha.
Well, let's get on to the last question. So, Peter,
I know it's going
does
to be.
vape pens eat ass?
Of course. Of course they do, because it's the motto and everything. Of course vape pens would eat ass. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's the end. Thank you
Let's
for
go.
coming to the
Thank you.
podcast.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me here.